Holy fuck. Hello my beautiful geekies and welcome to the episode review and analysis of Westworld episode 5, Contrapasso. And in this episode, we start off with a very small scene, and it's the scene we seen on the first episode. And that is Anthony Hopkins speaking to this greedy skin host, and he asks if Anthony Hopkins has any good stories. He tells about this greyhound that he had, and one day he let him loose in a park and he just ran off after a cat and he didn't stop until he get it. This is a very good story that tells us a little bit about Anthony Hopkins and maybe a little bit about Arnold, but we'll talk about that in a sec. And then we have Dolores and William and Logan. They arrive on a certain town, they want to make a business with someone, and so they go to the big boss of everything. And who is this big boss? Well, it's none other than Lawrence. It's very interesting that we see this because not only a few episodes ago we saw that he was wanted for many crimes in 3 different territories, but just in the scene before we have Ed Harris fighting Teddy, and he wants now for Teddy to be his partner because he just killed Lawrence. That was a very good scene. The destiny was not for Lawrence to accompany the Men in Black, it was for Teddy to do so. Now he's taking Teddy with him, which will lead us into a very interesting scene later in the episode. But right now, Dolores, Slimmy, Logan, and William, they make business with El Lasso, or however Lawrence was called, and they are now intercepting a federal carriage, and they are stealing some nitrate. They intercept the nitrate carriage, and we get a very good action sequence where Logan gets jumped by one of the soldiers, but then William just goes all out on them. He shoots them all, he kills them all, and Slimmy dies in the process too, but who cares? And so they return to El Lasso. He gives the nitrate to the Confederales, and they have this big party in this big building surrounded by people having orgasms and having sex with each other. It's an all-around orgy, and it looks like an old Greek thing that they used to do, which is actually very two different aesthetics coming together rather well. Throughout all of this though, Dolores is having visions that are telling her to go this certain way and to remember certain things. From there we go to a conversation between her and Robert, and Robert starts asking her questions about Arnold. Robert asks her if she remembers Arnold. She doesn't. Robert asks her if Arnold gave her any secret updates that he didn't know about. She says no. She always says no when it comes to Arnold. He asks her if she remembers Arnold. Again, she says no. And then he says analysis. He starts analyzing. She starts analyzing herself. And so he asks when was the last conversation and contact she had with Arnold. And she simply says 34 years, something days and 7 hours ago, and that was the day that Arnold died. Let's keep this in our minds for later in the episode for that fantastic scene. Anthony Hopkins also asks her where she is, and she says she's in a dream, and Anthony Hopkins, in a very assertive way, says that she is in his dream. This is his world. He controls where she is, what she does, what she says, and he wants to know what Arnold did before he died. Meanwhile, raising Hope Girl, she finds out that the guy who smashed his own head had kind of a tracking device inside his arm, and so she takes it to Bernard, and Bernard is kind of shocked and appalled at this revelation, which is unfortunately the only thing we see from Bernard in this episode, but I'm looking forward to see what his reaction is and to see what he tries to do to amend for the situation. Because Bernard is one of the best characters on the show. As they are having this big, gigantic, savage party, William and Logan have a confrontation, and Logan accuses William of not having a spine, not having the courage to do nothing, and accuses him of being a coward and being a guy who just gets bossed around. In this moment, William has a burst of rage, but he's then unable to do anything to Logan. But you can see that he's had enough of this guy, and I actually really don't quite like him either. He puts William against the wall and everything, but just then he can't do anything. But you can see in his eyes, he has this latent rage inside about to burst yet again. He just wants to beat the crap out of him. But after that, we have a scene with Dolores and William that is a payoff to something that had been built throughout the whole narrative, and that was Dolores hearing and understanding things that she supposedly couldn't. She heard William and Logan talking about this being a fake world and them returning to the real world and them controlling everything that would happen around here. And then she heard about the real world again and she was talking to William. And William just didn't know what to do. He didn't know what to say. This was not supposed to happen. And after that, we finally get the moment where Dolores and William decide to go away. She's in search for this certain thing. She has to find it to give her life purpose, to understand her life and herself. A journey of self-discovery, which we'll talk about again in a minute. And so they start to go away, but as they start doing so, this is the moment where the Confederales find out that the nitrate is not nitrate and they are being cheated on out of a good business. And so they start beating up Logan. Logan asks William for help. He's desperate. He doesn't know what to do, and William says no. But him and Dolores are suddenly surrounded by the other Confederales. William kills one, but he suddenly is jumped on by several of them. But he then tells Dolores to run, and this triggers Dolores and she kills all the Confederales. She's not going to be a damsel in distress anymore. That life of hers is over. And so they jump on the train, and who is there but Lawrence? And Lawrence understands that he is at a disadvantage, so he just tells them, please sit down, let's go quietly, don't explode that crate that has nitrate inside it, and we'll all be well. Well, at that moment Dolores looks at the casket and she sees the maze. So now I am guessing Dolores will have a lot of questions for Lawrence, which obviously knows something about the maze, as we've seen him in previous episodes, along with the man in black. There are also these two doctors throughout the episode, these two examiners, also bickering with one another because one wants to understand how the robots work and he wants to put them to work himself, he wants to create them, and then this other guy just wants to do his job, not question anything. And suddenly this other guy creates a little bird and he's very happy that he is so realistic and he finally can fly around. By the end of the episode he sees that it has come to life truly, but then suddenly we throughout the episode see that they are examining Fanny Newton, and suddenly she's woken up and she tells the guy that they are about to have a little chat. I couldn't care less for the storyline in this episode. Let's see what comes of it, hopefully something good, so we'll see. And finally, the best scene on the episode. Soon as it starts, I knew this was Anthony Hopkins. And the Men in Black and Teddy, they come to the bar, they ask just for whiskey, no company. Suddenly everything stops and a man comes sit down with them, he serves the whiskey, and then they start drinking. And they have this conversation about what the Man in Black is searching, what Robert is trying to do. Is he trying to stop him? No, he wouldn't stop this journey of self-discovery. But he understands now that the Man in Black wants to find Arnold. He wants to know what Arnold wanted to do. He wants to destroy this park. And Anthony Hopkins is not worried whatsoever, because as we've seen this scene, as we saw last week as he was talking to that big boss who is in bed with Bernard, Anthony Hopkins has full control over everything. He wants to stop the world, he stops it. He wants to put the world in motion, he puts it in motion. This is a very good confrontation. And suddenly Ed Harris starts asking himself and Anthony Hopkins, well, what would happen if I were to open your scalp? And even at that moment, Anthony Hopkins controls Teddy to stop the knife, to stop the Man in Black. I love this confrontation. I love having these two amazing actors, by the way, just having a conversation, which was tremendous to see. The pieces are all coming together in the theory that William is the Man in Black in the future, and he was in love with Dolores, he ran away with her, but then he just couldn't do anything about it. We still don't know, but the thing is, we have conversations of Anthony Hopkins and Dolores talking about 30 years ago. We have the Men in Black and Anthony Hopkins talking about Arnold dying 30 years ago. We cannot say if these things are happening in the same storyline. That is the only piece of the puzzle so far that maybe will not fit. This theory might be bullshit by the end of the season, or maybe by the end of the series. Who knows when we'll find out anything. But at this moment in time, my guess is that Dolores is going to have a few chats with Lawrence, finding a little bit more about the maze. I'm guessing she's eventually going to team up with the Men in Black, and we will not see William around, because she has a scene after Anthony Hopkins has a chat with her that she's talking to someone, maybe to her head only, and she says, he doesn't know, I didn't tell him anything. So what does Dolores know? And is that Dolores that says that the Dolores who see the Men in Black? If we're assuming those are different timelines, or is that the Dolores we see with William? That is the only theory that is fortified in this episode, because by everything we see, Lawrence dying, Lawrence being a big boss of an army of scoundrels, and then William and Logan separating, William showing those latent, raging emotions coming out, about to burst from himself. I really enjoyed this episode. It's very calm, fortifies a theory, goes by and shows us new perspectives and new characters hanging around and having conversations, and shows us that Anthony Hopkins has the power up in here. But let's move to the important part of this, and that is your opinion. Share your thoughts on this episode of Westworld in the comments below, and tell me your theories about the series and what are you expecting to see in the next episode. Share all those in the comments below, as well as your questions for the Fantastic Moana Q&A. Hashtag Fantastic Moana Q&A. And of course, your questions can be about anything, and they can be how many you want. And of course, you might win something on that giveaway. And if you like this video, give it a like and share. That's a big way for you guys to help me out. Don't forget to click subscribe if you haven't yet, and join the beautiful geeky community where it can be geeky united. Thank you so much for watching, my beautiful geekies. You guys are the best. Stay beautiful, stay geeky. Cheers!